Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Skirted Professional Podcast. We are so excited to have Alysa Young here with us today. Alysa is a mom of two. She's a fantastic nurse practitioner, and she's actually not even from here anymore. She lives in North Carolina, but was in town for the weekend, and so we fit her in for a live in-person interview. And I'm so honored that you're here and on the Skirted Professional Podcast. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Chloe.
Yeah. So let's dive right in. Why don't you tell me and our listeners just who you are? Where, what started? How'd your journey start?
Yeah, so like she said, my name is Alysa, and I am a mother of two and a wife to one.
Thankfully.
His name is Chris, and then I have a 9-year-old, Jude, and then a 5-year-old little girl named Reese.
Aww.
So they keep me busy.
Sure.
And then we moved to North Carolina. I guess it's been 4.5, almost 5 years in February.
Wow.
We moved to North Carolina, which is where my husband's from.
Okay.
And so we moved to Pinehurst, North Carolina. It's a small town. If people love golf, they'll know right away what Pinehurst is.
Definitely heard of that.
But yeah, so we live there and we go to church in Lemon Springs, North Carolina, at Pastor Simpson's church in Calvary. And so I'll go all the way back to, 2007 is when I graduated from nursing school.
Okay.
While I was in nursing school, I worked on labor and delivery at Barnes Jewish Hospital as a student nurse tech. Yeah,
okay.
so because I was pretty sure that's the path I wanted to take. It was either that or emergency room, and so I didn't really know.
Yeah.
So I did that, and once I graduated, then I went back and did my bachelor's degree.
Okay.
All working labor and delivery. In that time, I did switch hospitals to Missouri Baptist about 3.5 years in, I guess it was.
Okay.
Completely different environment there. And then we had Jude added to our family in 2012.
Wow.
And then he was 10 weeks old when I started back for my master's program. And then
10 weeks old.
10 weeks old, yeah.
How did you do that?
What
was going through your mind?
Well, I'll be honest. It was busy and it was crazy, but he was a very good sleeper.
Awesome.
And so I think that, along with support from family, saved my life because he was, newborn, so he would sleep, so I would do homework. And I was working full-time as well.
Wow.
But at that point, I was working in a doctor's office.
Okay.
So I had that little bit more evening flexibility, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was not for the faint of heart, but
wow.
I survived. And I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did
so
it.
you started out, did you get your Associate of Nursing first?
I did.
Worked as a student nurse at Barnes Jewish and then went back for your bachelor's?
I did. So, and I transitioned from student nurse to just registered nurse on the same unit.
Labor and delivery.
I did, yeah.
Awesome.
I just thought it was a smoother transition because I was already familiar with the unit, the people, the doctors. And actually, we had residents, so those were always fluctuating. But the core doctors. So I just felt like that would help me in that transition of becoming a nurse.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So you went back to school for your bachelor's while you were still working labor and delivery.
Mm-hmm.
And was online program?
It was.
Okay.
So Barnes Jewish is connected to, or somehow has, Goldfarb School of Nursing.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were piloting an online RN to BSN program.
Wow.
And I was the second group, and it was completely free for BJC employees.
Wow.
So I didn't pay a dime for my bachelor's
Amazing.
degree. And then I think they maybe offered it one more year or one more class, and then after that you got like a 20% discount.
Wow.
So I was super blessed.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So it was huge fun.
So you started off in labor and delivery, and it sounds like if you were toying back and forth with that or emergency room, you liked that fast pace.
I'm an adrenaline.
Let me catch the baby, ER cases.
Oh, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
So
I love
fun.
running down the hallway. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. So how long did you work labor and delivery?
So I ended up doing that a total of 8 years because I stayed PRN even once I became a nurse practitioner.
Wow.
Because I just loved it so much.
Yes.
But I was working 4 10-hour shifts a week once I transitioned into nurse practitioner. And keeping that extra 12 hours was just a little much with kids.
Yes,
so
sure.
I ended up having to give it up.
Wow.
Very reluctantly.
And was your nurse practitioner program that was online as well?
I did.
Okay.
I originally obtained my degree from Maryville University here in St. Louis, and I was originally in the on-campus program.
Okay.
But I made the decision when my son was born and was in the NICU. We did not really know where the road was leading, how long we would be there. That was in June, and I was going to be starting the program, so I just felt like I would need a little bit more flexibility. So they were able to switch me to the online program without any problem.
Yeah, and then you did just in-person clinicals, obviously, towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, which was challenging because you have to find your own preceptors.
Wow.
So that was a nice little challenge.
And you had kids, and you were working.
Right.
While trying to
so one. Well, I had Jude at the time.
Okay,
yeah, just one at the time. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, I know it all blurs together.
Wow. So you go back, you get your NP, and what are you doing currently?
So right now I am working in, they call it convenient care in North Carolina, but it's an urgent care setting is what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And do you love that? Is it scratching that adrenaline itch for you?
It is. Yeah, it does. I love it. It keeps my skills up. It keeps me on my toes. I never know what's walking through the door.
Right.
You know, it could be people come in for some crazy stuff. I'm just going to tell you right now. You know, so it could be for a hangnail, or it could be that they are in cardiac arrest.
Right.
I mean, so it's all over the board.
And you're
mostly,
the first one, you're like, okay, here's your primary care. You can go see them.
Exactly.
And then the latter, you're like, okay, you can go to the emergency room. The ambulance is on the way.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I do a lot of deferring, but I take care of what I can in that setting, and then
send you off. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So did you know, when you first became the nurse practitioner, did you work in the family care setting? What did you do after that?
Yeah. So I did not, because I found very quickly in my clinicals that was not really something that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So I actually went back to my roots at BJC and worked with anesthesia.
Wow.
I did it was called the Center for Preoperative and Assessment and Planning.
Okay.
So anybody that was having surgery within the next 30 days would come to us to make sure that they could handle the anesthesia.
Healthy enough.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That they would need for their surgery. So again, as simple as a tooth extraction.
Wow.
Or as complex as a 4-vessel bypass surgery.
Wow.
So it was a really interesting job.
Well, you have to know a lot.
Yeah, it really, especially from coming from labor and delivery,
where
I'm working with moms and babies.
Specialized.
Yeah, very specialized. So that particular job really helped me develop just learning how to interpret echoes and stress in just all of those things.
Wow.
So, it was a while specialized yet generalized at the same time. So it was good.
I mean, it's like primary care where you have to know a little bit about everything.
Yeah.
It sounds like you had to vet each age group.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't designated to elders or
no.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
Wow.
So it was very, just based off, and we kind of had an algorithm we had to follow. So if they're on certain medications, or if they had a history of something, then, you know, this is the workup they need.
Right.
You know, so,
Wow. Very cool.
So that's what I started doing.
For nurse practitioner.
Right.
Okay.
And then I did that for 2 years, and then we moved.
Okay.
And then when we moved, I took a couple months break just to adjust to the move, help the kids to adjust.
Right.
And then that's where my urgent care, convenient care initially started.
Okay.
At a separate location from where I'm at now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were there a decent amount of time?
I think it was about a year and a half. And in that time frame, I was also doing clinicals for the local community college.
Oh, wow.
On the labor and delivery.
Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you got to keep your hand in kind of all of the parts.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I did that, and that was just part-time. That was just 1 day a week for them.
Okay.
And that was actually only one semester. And then I get a phone call, I guess maybe sometime May of that year, and they wanted to offer me a full-time teaching position.
Wow.
Teaching the OB women's health portion. And I had it was the director that contacted me and was like, I have this opening and I want you to take it. And I didn't really know how I felt about it because I've never really enjoyed teaching.
Sure.
I'm that nurse that kind of avoided when students came on the floor. I was head of the office.
Follow me.
Right. And it's not that I don't enjoy students. I know why I do it.
Yes.
And I don't really.
You don't want to veer from that.
Yeah. Yes. So looking back, and I never refused taking students, but I think it's funny come full circle. Then now I'm teaching students, but
so you did accept that job.
I did.
Wow.
Yeah, I did accept that, and I wasn't really sure, but I also needed the flexibility because my husband was traveling for work, and I just kind of felt like, okay, God, you've put this in my lap.
Right.
I'm going to take it. So, and I prayed about it. Don't get me wrong. And I sought counsel, and I sat down and wrote pros, cons. I did all the things.
What Enneagram are you?
Right, 1. Yeah. I don't even think I need to tell you that.
I love it.
So I did that, and I just felt like, okay, I couldn't ignore the fact that it just fell in my lap.
That's amazing.
So, and hindsight is, and I don't know if we'll get to this later, but I didn't love the job, but I knew, I'm doing this. It's a season of my life where I need to have that flexibility for my children.
Absolutely.
And I would get caught up with wanting to rush through that season. And I really felt like God spoke to me to slow down and to be content in the state and season that I was in. Because what he spoke to me was, you're going to miss the purpose of why I have you. I mean, I laid this job in your lap. There's got to be a reason for it, right? And so God really, really worked on my heart with that one. I was happy to see that season go. But I can also tell you, Chloe, when the pandemic hit, I knew why God had allowed that. Because if I was working a 12-hour shift job, my kids were home from school.
Wow.
I wouldn't have been able to do it.
That's right. Everything shut down.
As soon as the pandemic hit, I was like, okay, this is why.
Unbelievable.
Because I was working from home. I was doing virtual classes.
Wow.
So while, yes, that was stressful trying to do Jude's school and teach my classes, I wouldn't have been able to do it any other way. So it's just, looking back, I'm like, wow, it's just amazing how God.
And I was going to ask you, have you figured out what that season was for? What the purpose was,
right? And
you nailed it.
I mean,
it was revealed to you.
Exactly. Wow. It was so. It was like a light bulb when the pandemic hit. I was like, wow,
this wouldn't have worked otherwise.
No, not at all. Not at all. So God's just awesome.
He's such a personal God.
Yeah.
Every season of life, he's so personal. And I think a lot of times when we're in those seasons, we don't have enough awareness to know why we're in them. But it's like, God, just help me learn one thing that's going to help me in the future.
Yeah, because I would get so caught up with, because I missed patient care. Yeah. So I would get so focused on that negative that I couldn't even see any other good, or what am I supposed to be doing here, and am I missing out on something like that, So
do you think you would have enjoyed the job more had it been in person?
No, because half of it was in person. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was just a lot of aspects to it, and I think also it goes back to my personality. If I'm going to do something, I want to be good at it.
Sure.
And I'm not saying I wasn't good at it. I'm also not saying I was great at it.
Right.
But I want to be humble about that.
Yes.
But there was also so much that I didn't know, because that's not what I went to school for.
Right.
So they accept you if you have a master's degree.
Okay.
As a teacher.
Right.
It doesn't have to be an education. So my Master of Science in Nursing it just got me there.
Wow.
Even as a nurse practitioner.
Gotcha.
So it qualified me for the job. And then, of course, having the labor and delivery background qualified me to teach that topic.
Okay.
But when you get into writing exam questions and curriculum set up, and I would just sit in those meetings and be like, well,
this is not what I want to do.
I don't know what you're talking about. So that's also where I feel like I felt almost a little bit defeated, because I didn't feel like I could be good at it.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's where I struggled with that.
Okay. So then you left there. I guess the pandemic happened. You're still at home with your babies. And then things taper off. Your kids go back to school.
Yeah. So let's see. It would have been last year. So what was that, 2020?
Yeah.
So the kids started, Reese was in an in-home daycare, so she hadn't started school yet. Jude was then virtual. So he was what was he? Home Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, school Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
Okay. So then that carried through until December. And then, so December is actually when I finished teaching.
Okay.
Because I had figured out, okay, this is really not what I want to do. I missed patient care so bad. So in all of that process, I accepted a PRN job, which is as needed, which probably anybody listening to this podcast knows that. But
good clarification.
With where I'm at now, at the First Health Convenient Care. So I was working mainly every Saturday or like every couple of Saturdays, one day a week here and there.
Sure.
And so that's what I did starting last November.
Okay.
And then once I gave my notice and finished up at the college in December, then I transitioned to full-time officially June 1st, just a couple months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you love it?
I do. It's been crazy.
Yeah.
It's been
well,
very crazy.
What a time to join on to urgent
how
care
dumb
with
am I don't know.
COVID tests and
oh my pandemic, goodness. And I want to come back to patient care.
Right. I miss
and
it.
A convenient care. But when the pandemic hit, I just remembered thinking, I feel useless. I could be out there helping. And I had reached out to a couple different organizations like, hey, I'm here. I can help if needed. Because I had some of that flexibility.
You had that experience too.
Yeah. And so nothing really opened up until a little bit later. But again, God's timing is just perfect. It's what it needs to be. And the current job that I'm at is 4 minutes from my home.
Wow.
So while it's the busiest clinic that they have, it's also the convenience of being so close, and my kids' school is very close by there.
Awesome.
So it's just
those doors opened
amazing.
and you walked through them. Yeah, I love that you can look back now and see all the pieces falling into place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's really hard when you're going through it. You don't see it like that way.
Right. And sometimes we get tunnel vision. Yeah.
This is my end goal.
Right.
And we don't see the different avenues that can get us to that end goal.
Right.
We have that one that we want to take.
The easy.
Yes, the easy and short, the fastest.
Yeah.
So,
for sure.
Wow. So I want to go back and hear kind of about your childhood and how you said you were from here.
Mm-hmm.
You went to church in St. Louis your whole life growing up. Okay. So maybe walk us through kind of your journey before you ever went to nursing school. Is that something you felt called to at an earlier age, or?
Yeah, so my dad has been pastor now for 40 years.
Wow.
Actually this year at Apostolic Pentecostal Church. So originally the original building was downtown St. Louis.
Okay.
And then new facility back in 2003 moved out to South County.
Wow.
But yeah, so growing up in a pastor's home, mom and dad met at Gateway.
Okay.
My mom is from North Carolina, actually.
Oh my goodness.
Enough.
Yeah.
And so they met at Gateway. My oldest sister went to Gateway. Amber went to Gateway.
Love it.
So it just kind of was, this
in order
pathway,
for you,
right?
Yeah.
And so I kept thinking, okay, what am I going to do? But I just loved nursing. I don't know what necessarily, and we've talked about this. I don't know that I necessarily felt called to it right away.
Sure.
Or that I viewed it as a calling, I guess.
Yeah.
But it sounds so silly, but I used to watch the show ER, and I was like, I want to do that someday. And so that's really what even I think got my brain going towards patient care, or that I think got my brain going. Maybe it was a little
implanted,
nudge. Right. So yeah, I just. It was just something I wanted to do. Care people.
Yeah.
Care for people. Yeah.
Love that. So with the path kind of laid out in front of you, not that your parents were forcing you to go to Gateway by any means, but kind of the thread and the trend in your family, was it different when you decided to do something else? Was it kind of hard for people to understand, or did you feel supported in making a different decision?
Absolutely. My parents told me from day one, basically, like, you do what God has called you to do.
Right.
Please don't feel pressured. We support you if you want to go to Gateway. Or I had tossed up going to IBC for a little while. So they supported me 100%, whether it was nursing school or Bible college.
That's awesome.
And I felt very confident, and that made me feel good about knowing I had their support.
Yes.
So when I graduated high school, I did a year of community college and did some prereqs working towards my nursing degree.
Yes.
And at the time, it was very high demand, and the college that I had chosen had a 2-year waiting list.
Wow.
So there was a time in my life where I went through something really difficult, and I felt like I really sought after God, and I felt Him nudge me and say, "Please give me a year and go to Gateway."
Yeah.
He didn't ask me for more.
Right.
He wanted a year. So I was like, okay,
I'll do it.
All right, God. So I remember after that church service, I sat down with my mom and dad, and I was bawling, like, I think God wants me to go to Gateway. And they were like, okay, we support you. And at the time, Gateway had the 1-year program. I forget exactly what the name of it was, but I ended up choosing music just because I do have a passion I enjoy singing and playing. So I decided to do music. And all along, all through the year, I knew I was doing the year. I was committed to that year, and I didn't know what I was going to do after that because I still wanted to do nursing.
Yeah.
Just didn't know where it was going to go, and I kept praying. I was very purposeful in my prayer and specific, and I prayed. I said, God, if you want me to stay at Gateway, send somebody to give me a message that says stay. Mm-hmm. And if you want me to go, have somebody come and blatantly say go.
Wow.
And we went on chorale tour. Every night passes, nothing happens. And then the very last night of our chorale tour, one of my peers, one of the girls that was on chorale tour with us, she came and prayed with me. And this was the first time she'd ever prayed with me, right? Not that we had anything bad against each other. It's just she had never specifically prayed for me. And she came and she whispered in my ear and she said, Alysa, I feel to tell you the word go. I was like,
oh my word. Wow.
Like, all right, God, that's, and it felt so weird or different, I guess, to have God lead me away from Bible college.
Yes. Yeah.
But now I truly feel like my ministry is as a nurse practitioner to care for patients and people. So.
Well, and I love you're such a testament to, you can do both. Mm-hmm. You took that year, you sacrificed waiting for the nursing program. I don't think we would call it a sacrifice, but that was a waiting period.
Oh, sure.
And you were like, this is what I really want to do.
Yeah.
It's just not open for me yet.
Yeah.
But in the waiting, in the meantime, you were still actively doing something, investing in yourself. And I love that you, after that year, still went and pursued nursing. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes it kind of gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
And we don't always go after those dreams after that waiting period.
Right.
And that is incredible.
Yeah. And then I got married in that time frame too, so I had 1 year of nursing school under my belt.
Okay.
And then finished a year, and I remember, some people were like, you're getting married too young, and you're not going to finish. And I'm like, I know myself. Like, this is what I want to do.
You're a one on the Enneagram.
I'm going to finish, all right? And of course, I had the support of my parents to get married, so I don't really care what other people said.
I got the blessing. I'm good to go.
But yeah.
Oh, that is so cool. I'm love learning about you, and I know this is going to really strike a chord with a lot of our audience. So bring us to today, right now. You're a nurse practitioner. Mm-hmm. You're working in an urgent care. I cannot talk today.
I know.
An urgent care center in the height of a pandemic, COVID, shutdowns. How do you feel? Like you have to be exhausted. You have to be overwhelmed. Can you share with us kind of just some struggles and some strengths maybe throughout this whole process?
Yeah, absolutely. So it has been very, very stressful. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat that. Just the volume of patients that we were seeing, it's starting to taper down now, but with the new Delta variant, it just skyrocketed because you can't go on with your life without, needing to get tested, or, some people are very, very ill with it too.
Right, sure.
And then you also have to consider these other things that come in, a broken foot, or, you had a laceration. You have to take care of those things too. It's very, very stressful. I think where my challenge has been, and again, going back to my personality, I like to have things in order. And, I like to be able to take the time and spend time with patients. And I just didn't feel like I could really give that good patient care that these people deserved. Not that I gave poor care, but I just felt like it was I had to go so quickly because I've got 50 patients waiting to be seen. So I really struggled with that at the beginning. And then I kind of got to the point where I'm like, okay, this is what it is. I think these people probably, hopefully at least come expecting to have to wait a little bit. So I'm going to take my time. And I'm going to give each patient. And in fact, I was chatting with a patient a couple weeks ago, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey. You have a busy day. You know I need to." And I'm like, "It's okay. You waited a long time to see me.
Right.
You can have your equal time." Now, some people probably get a little carried away, but so no, I mean, I would definitely say it's just been challenging, and to try not to bring that stress home.
Yes, right.
I have to leave that at the door.
How do you do that?
Oh, I don't sometimes. There's been a couple times where I literally like opened the door, the front door, and I drop my stuff, and I just like break down and fall. Just from I think the pressure and just the stress of it. You know, not that anything, for the most part, patients have been kind. There's a couple here and there that are very rude, but you know, I think just carrying the
pressure.
Stress. Yeah. But, you know, every morning I pray before my shift starts, either on my drive or sometimes once I sit down on my computer, sanitize everything.
Yes.
And I bow my head and just ask God to give me the strength for that day.
Yeah.
And I thank him for the knowledge that he's given me, because he has given me knowledge to get through school.
Yep.
But then I pray that he gives me wisdom to use that knowledge that he's given me. And I pray that he gives me clarity to diagnose, to assess, and to treat. Because there's sometimes I don't really know exactly what's going on because I don't have access to ultrasound or, you know, all the things.
The diagnostic.
So, I just pray that he gives that to me, and he does. Every single day he does.
I love what you said, and maybe we can pick that apart a little bit, is you pray for knowledge. You're thankful for the knowledge, but then you pray for the wisdom. And in those situations where you know the book work, you know what this and this matches up, these signs and symptoms point to this, but that godly wisdom that comes in. And I just think it's so powerful that we have practitioners out there who are spirit-filled and can say, whenever science and these books fail me and I don't know what this is, that godly wisdom rushes in, and it's like a light bulb goes off, and I know exactly how to treat this patient.
No, absolutely.
And I'm sure you feel that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. There's a patient that I'm thinking of right now that the outcome ended up not being good, but I know beyond of a shadow of doubt that God gave me every single, just the steps in the midst of a so busy day, that he gave that to me to do this with the patient and then do this and do this. And then I sent them on, and, you know, things happened, but I knew, I rested easy that night knowing God had guided me that day. And the other thing I pray every single day is that I will be a light to somebody, that they will. I can't sit there and witness to every single person, right? I don't mean to disrespect. I don't have time to do that.
I understand.
So I literally say, God, help me to be a light to somebody today, and let them feel your love through me.
Yes.
Even if it's this because I'm putting a stethoscope on their chest, or if it's because of how I'm smiling under the mask that they can't.
They can't
see my smile. But I do. I pray that every single day, because I want patients to feel that. You know? And I think it makes a difference.
It does. And witnessing comes in all different forms. You know, something that's really been laid on my heart lately is our lives are saying something. Every day, every person we come in contact with, you're preaching something, you're witnessing somehow. And even if it's not that verbal communication of you physically sitting down and giving them a Bible study, the care you're given, the time you're taking to listen to their needs, they might not have anyone else in the world to talk to you. And some of them come just to get comfort from a medical professional. I mean, you're a therapist, you're a counselor, you're a social worker.
You really are.
You are. And so them feeling God's love, and you can't feel it in this room, listeners, but we are both like teary-eyed feeling God right now as we talk about this, because it is such a unique situation when you have spirit-filled professionals and practitioners that are seeking God for their patients. Those patients are so blessed and so lucky, you know, because we are seeking God on their behalf, and we do want the best for them. It's not about a paycheck. It's not about schooling or status or whatever it is. This is our heartbeat.
Absolutely. Which is, it felt so cliche when I was teaching to say that I missed patient care. Like, that just felt so silly, but I truly did. I just missed being able to care for people and help them as best as I can.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know.
And I can see that it's what truly sets your soul on fire.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's what you were made to do.
Yeah.
And you have to feel so content now. I mean, we talked about being content in other seasons of life.
Yeah.
That you're walking in exactly the path you need to be.
Right.
And where you
as
need
long
to
as
be.
I leave knowing that I did what the best I could do, you know, and that God directed me, that's really all I can do.
That's so cool.
And that's what helps me to, you know, be fulfilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
So coming through this hard pandemic and season of life, I mean, what is the normal patient quota that you would see a day prior to the pandemic?
So I would say, well, since I started full time in June, we would probably average anywhere from 60 to 80 patients a day, probably.
Okay. And
maybe a little bit more, give or take some days.
Some days worse than others. With the Delta variant, how many?
Yeah, so on average, we were probably at 150 a day.
Unbelievable.
And our record breaker, of course, on a day that I was there was 185.
Unbelievable.
185,
yeah. Is that the day you walk in your house and you just...
I'm pretty sure. And that's also the day that I ended up doing a 15-hour shift.
Oh, my word.
Just because I work 8 to 8. My coworker comes in and does 2 to midnight.
Okay.
So our clinic is open until midnight. And when I was supposed to leave at 8, there were still about like 30 patients that were even waiting to be seen that were already checked in.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't leave him like this. Like, I can't do that.
Right.
So I was off the next day. So I was like, you know what, I can stay. And then finally at like 10:30, my eyes, I'm like, sorry, buddy.
I gotta go.
I'm not safe anymore.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah.
So, I mean, you have felt the exhaustion, the overwhelm, the stress, the pressure from this, as so many of our listeners have as well.
Sure.
Are there things you've put in place to be your stress relievers? Are there boundaries or sections of time that you take for yourself to recoup? And what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I make sure it's nice now because on my days off, they're pretty much truly days off because both my kids are in school now.
Right.
Grace is in kindergarten, Jude's in 4th, and school is in full time. Oh, good Lord. So, yeah, I mean, I just pretty much do whatever I want to do.
Good.
Now, as an Enneagram 1, what that looks like is cleaning and doing laundry.
That's a schedule.
But that is therapeutic for me, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
My husband is sometimes like, just lay on the couch. I'm like,
I can't.
I don't know.
You can't lay on the couch when there's laundry.
When there's stuff to do, right? But it's okay because I enjoy doing that.
Right.
I wouldn't mind giving up grocery shopping if someone wants to come do my grocery shopping and meal planning. But or running is really an outlet for me.
So exercise.
Exercise. Even walking. I got to where I would turn on the podcast, yours, and I have another friend who has one, and I'll go on like 4 or 5 mile walks.
Wow. Yeah.
But I try not to schedule too much on my days off so that those are truly self-care days, I guess you could say.
That's awesome.
And I have recently found a love for facials.
Okay.
So,
like at a salon or at a spa. Okay.
Yes.
Amazing.
So last month I had one because I had just had such a stress. That was probably after my 185 day, and I just was like, I'm getting a facial. And then once I had it, I was like, I'm getting another one.
Schedule me again.
Yeah. So I'm definitely going to be keeping those up.
Love that.
I mean, I just feel like I work hard.
Yes.
So there's other areas where I don't spend money. So I'm like, I'm going to do this for myself because it helps me relax.
Absolutely. And if you find that one thing that does that for you, you're better off to your husband, you're better off to your children, you're a better mom, you're a better saint, Christian, practitioner, all the way around.
Right.
So to someone who kind of is still feeling that overwhelming pressure right now, what is some advice that you could give them or some encouragement to maybe they're even a newer nurse or a newer practitioner and maybe they've come through the height of COVID being new to this field?
Yeah. I would probably say remember why God called you or that God called you.
Yeah.
And I had to remind myself of that quite a few times when I would be so stressful and be like, why in the world did I come
why did I
in the
sign up
yeah,
to do
what
this?
was I thinking?
Yeah.
But God called me to do this, and this is my ministry.
Yes.
So God help me guide me.
Right.
I mean, I've read some self-help books. I dig into devotionals and the Bible reading, just ways to find strength, you know, in the midst of that. But just remember, God called you to do this.
Yeah.
And there's somebody out there who needs you.
That's right.
You don't know, you may not know, and they may not verbalize that to you. But you just, and I would teach this to students too, you never know whose life you're going to impact.
Wow.
And how you treat them could change their life.
Yeah.
You know? And so that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's amazing. So do you kind of have a life mission? I know you love giving to people. You love helping. Is there a phrase or a verse or something that you have clung to? I know you said you dive into devotionals and facials and running. Those things help you.
Yeah.
Is there something else that you cling to that really helps you get through?
I guess not necessarily. Okay. I will say, now I've tried to, again, going back to the verse, is it Philippians 4:11, that I have learned whatever state I'm in with to be content. And I remind myself of that. And when I start to get caught up in all the negative of COVID and the overwhelm, and the morale in our clinic was awful at times just because we're all stressed. Sure. And I get it. We each get it. Yes. But when I get caught up in that negative, and I verbally say this, but I'm thankful to have a job. Yeah. Yeah. Because there are some people that the pandemic took their job, you know. So I truly am blessed. It feels stressful, right? It's stressful, blessed. But I do. I just remind myself, like, I am. And so I guess how I would answer that is just positive thinking. Love that. Like, reverse that negative. Yeah. Because I will even say that to patients. They'll be like, "You've got to be so stressed," and I'll be like, "Yeah. But I'm blessed to have a job." I love it. And it sounds silly, but it's just so true. It puts it in perspective. Yeah, it really truly does. Yeah. Well, and the nursing profession and the medical profession in general, we're going on 2 years now of hardcore, intense straining, and now with different governmental mandates and things, we're seeing a falling away. Yeah. So it's only going to get a little more tense probably before it gets better. Right. But what encourages me is that we always have schools filled with students trying to learn and wanting to go into these professions. Right. And that can be an encouragement as well. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I feel like you kind of answered it a little bit in the middle of our talk, but we have a question that we ask at the end of every episode. And it is, what is saving your life right now? Yeah. So it would definitely be my workout routines for sure. Okay. Yeah. I make sure on my days off to get in at least something, whether it's a run, a walk. I've gotten into these barre classes. Okay. BARRE. Okay. I just want to clarify. I like that camera look. And which is just like a strength and toning. But I think just because I feel like it keeps me healthy and fit, but then it's also just a way to, at least when I'm running, it just really everything everything just goes out. Well, and we're so not aware of how powerful those endorphins are. Oh, absolutely. Mentally, physically, spiritually, like, we have those natural endorphins. Right. We just have to put the work in to get them to muster up, you know. And I would always say coffee too. I mean, coffee, facials, exercise. Until recently, and I just bought this huge 1-gallon jug to take to work with me because I was finding I would get to the end of the day and be like, I just had 2 cups of coffee the entire day, and this is all I've had. So now I make sure that I'm drinking my water. But yeah. Oh, I love it. Well, you're such an encouragement to me personally and to a lot of ladies, I think, that will listen to this. And whether you're weary, whether you're struggling with what season of life you're in, you kind of touched on all of those things, and it was fantastic. And I really think there's lots of wisdom through this episode. Yeah. I definitely learned a lot. Good. So we're very thankful to have you. And I just want to say thank you to you, too, for what you provide to us through CSAUCY, because I've had so many. You wouldn't really think that patients would notice it. Right. You know, I don't know. I just wouldn't think. I've had so many people just comment on, I love your outfit. That just looks so professional. Or, I love your skirt. And I'm like, oh, yeah, thanks. I'm wearing a skirt. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. Or, around my clinic, I'm known as the provider that wears the skirt. Yes. Like, she can't remember my name, but I'm the provider that wears the skirt. So, but thank you to you for providing that to us to make it, easy for us. Yeah, and we didn't even really hit on you
looking different throughout your whole journey and kind of those elements, but I'm sure it's been a process and it's something you've held to.
Yeah, so I'm very thankful. My mom is thankful as well. She doesn't have to make any more sports.
Rip the seam out of the pants.
But no, I'm very, very thankful to have available.
Love it. Well, I appreciate your kind words, and it's been an honor to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.